Mari, Mary. And the land, of course, as before, is Ta, the beloved land, TAMERI. And they kept that name and just put the Ta on the end of it. So TAMERI became America. We simply say America. We kept the name that Egypt gave to the Americas. So that was the big mystery behind that $10 million map that Martin Waldseemüller made, and then put the name America on it in 1507. And then those who knew and those who were trying to hide things said, wait a minute, you can't put that name on here. And the next time he reprinted that map, it was off. It was gone. Because that's the name that Egypt had given the land.
Now you know your nationality.
Oh, wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Thanks for tuning in once again, guys. I'm always appreciative you taking the time to do that. Today, we just got some more icing on the cake. America's the true old world. We've been proving it in many different ways. We got another newspaper article here corroborating with what we already know to be true. We're talking about a true old world when we're talking about the antiquities in America. So we're going to get into this journal. Shout out to Mind Unveiled. I saw it, him reading one of his videos. Also, he got it from another YouTuber before him. So I thought this would be great to share this with you guys. And we're in the Rathman's Journal. This is volume 4, number 20. This is from January 6th, 1858. Okay? And as you guys can see, this is from Clearfield, Pennsylvania. So we're going to zoom in the part we're going to read from. So hopefully it's not too blurry for you guys, but I'll read it out, don't worry. It says here, Antiquities in America. Throughout the entire length and breadth of the country, washed as it is by the waters of two mighty oceans, and abounding in natural resources, enormous beyond what is impossible to conceive, we find much to admire in the aspect and beauty of nature, and whether we travel from the distant shores of Maine and New Brunswick to the golden sands of California and the shores of the great Pacific, or from the bright crystal lakes of Minnesota to the orange groves of Florida, we behold throughout the immense extent the features of nature, grand and beautiful in every form and aspect. The mineralogist, the geologist, the naturalist, the botanist, and even the antiquarian have all a rich field here. All right, true old world. Strange as it may appear, America abounds in antiquities so extensive, so beautiful and majestic as to rival those of Thebes or Nineveh. All right, because this is the true Thebes and Nineveh. Ruins of ancient cities of immense extent, okay? Fortifications, mounds, and pyramids, temples with walls built on hewn stone, showing a refined taste in architecture, and adorned with human figures, beautifully executed, large altars ornamented with hieroglyphics, probably giving a record of those who reared them, but which no man has been able to decipher. Remains of ancient palaces with beautiful specimens of sculpture and painting, with many other marks of ancient greatness, prove to us that this is not a new world, okay? Again, mic drop. Can I get a body bag for the illusion? What I've been telling you guys, this is the true old world. This is not a new world. Again, they're saying this proves to us that this is not a new world. You got to dodge your own hijacks. But that a powerful empire, okay? A powerful empire existed at a very remote period of time, teeming with a population highly skilled in arts and in a state of civilization far beyond anything we have been led to conceive of the aborigines, all right? Of the indigenous people here, previous to the discovery of the continent by Europeans, all right? Not the white man, but Europeans. The antiquities of America extend from the eastern shores of Maine and Massachusetts to the Pacific, and from the Great Lakes and British dominions to Peru and La Plata in South America. In fact, throughout the extent of both continents, immense forests grow over the ruins of large cities, and the gigantic size of the trees with indications that other generations of trees sprung up and grew before them. Proves that the ruins were in existence before the Christian era, okay? This is old here. And remember, our chronologies are false. They made things look old on the other side. They made them look like they were BC times, but in reality, a lot of this stuff's just happening in the Middle Ages or so-called Dark Ages. So finding these structures here before the Christian era is no doubt indication of very ancient people. In every portion of the United States, interesting ruins have been discovered. In the state of New York, have been found sculptured figures of 100 animals of different species, executed in a style for superior to anything exhibited by any of the existing tribes of Indians. The state of Ohio abounds in ruins of towns and fortifications, with extensive mounds and pyramids. At Marietta and Missouri, beautiful pottery, silver and copper ornaments, and pearls of great lustre have been dug from the earth. In the caves of Tennessee and Kentucky, mummies have been found in a high state of preservation, okay, mummies, clothed with cloths and skins of various texture, inlaid with feathers. Like discoveries have been made at Carrollton, near Milwaukee, in the state of Wisconsin. Ruins of huge fortifications appear. Similar ruins appear in the state of Missouri, on the south side of the Missouri River. In the western portion of the state is an enclosure of some 500 acres, which includes the ruins of a building, no doubt ancient tower, okay? An ancient tower here in Missouri, with walls over 100 feet high and 80 feet wide at the base, attached to which are a roundabout and a citadel, with work much resembling the structure of a tower in Europe. But it is in the south of Mexico that magnificent and beautiful ruins present themselves in abundance. Ruins of majestic cities and magnificent temples and altars, with beautiful works of sculpture, tastefully wrought, palaces adorned with paintings, colors chiefly sky blue and light green, which show by their richness and elegance to be the work of a highly cultivated people. All right, you see all this on the wall? Highly cultivated people. Do you remember your ancestors? These ruins, majestic and beautiful in appearance, but overgrown with thick forests of mahogany and cedar of immense dimensions and great age, prove to the world that a great empire existed here at a very remote period of time, okay? True old world. And that this empire teemed with an immense population, a people skilled in the mechanical arts and in advanced state of cultivation, okay? Agriculture started here. The most extensive ruins are to be found at Uxmal and Palenque in the southeast of Mexico. At Uxmal are immense pyramids coated with stone and quadrangular stone edifices and terraces. The highest of these pyramids is 130 feet, and on the summit, it supports a temple, okay? Not only is it just pyramid like the ones in Egypt, but we have temples on top of our pyramids. On one of the facades of the temple are 4 human figures cut in stone with great exactness and elegance. The hands are crossed upon the breast. The head is covered with something like a helmet. About the neck is a garment of the skin of an alligator, and over each body is a figure of a death's head and bones. All right, that sounds like the pirate symbol, right? The skull and bones. At Palenque, a city of great extent, are immense ruins with the remains of a royal palace. One temple, that of Copan, 520 feet by 650, and supposed to have been as large as St. Peter's at Rome. Another temple of great dimensions is here, having an entrance by a portico 100 feet long and 10 feet broad. It stands on an elevation of 60 feet. The pillars of the portico are adorned with hieroglyphics and other devices. Different objects of worship have been found, representations of the gods who were worshipped in this country. These temples with 14 large buildings and many other objects of curiosity stand here as monuments of ancient greatness to remind us of the remote origin of a mighty empire. The city has been described as the thieves of America, okay? Palenque, the thieves of America. We already got this. Remember the exploration of Dupox and Palenque and what he found and what we read? Make sure to catch the previous presentations. So it's been described as the thieves of America, and travelers have supposed that it must have been 60 miles in circumference and contain a population of 3 million souls, okay? Palenque alone. Centuries must have elapsed and dynasties succeeded each other before such orders of architecture were introduced, and a great length of time must have passed before empire would become sufficiently powerful to erect such temples and possess a city of such vast extent. Okay, I hope you guys understood that. He's literally telling you, yes, in order for people to settle down, right? First, you got to develop agriculture from a hunter, gatherer, or whatever you are, right? So you can settle down, you have time, and eventually build a whole city, palaces and everything, stadiums. By the time you do that, you already way advanced, and you've been in that region for many, many ages before that. And looking back to the past, we feel interested in the imagination that these people, once in the noonday of glory, enjoying all the fruits and luxuries of an advanced civilization. But when we behold these ruins, a melancholy reflection must at once seize our minds. On the ground where once nations met in their strength and power, wild beasts now roam, and venomous serpents wend their way. All right? It's almost like these people and these civilizations already went through their apocalypse, right? The end of their world. And over these vast cities, where once the busy hem of industry and the voice of merriment resounded, grows the vast cedar, on whose branches the owl chatters discordant notes and the bat sleeps at meridian. In this country is exhibited the largest pyramid in the world, that of Cholula, near Puebla, okay? Cholula. It has the largest base of any pyramid in the world. It covers 44 acres and is 200 feet high. On its summit was a temple, and in the interior has been discovered a vault, roofed with beams of wood containing skeletons and idols, several smaller pyramids surrounding this large one. It appears to have been formed by cutting a hill into an artificial shape, almost like a mound, huh? Its dimensions are immense, being nearly 3 miles in circumference and about 400 feet high. But I just want to say that it's actually stone under there. It is divided into terraces and slopes covered with platforms, stages and bastions elevated one above the other, and are formed with large stones skillfully cut and jointed with cement. In some respects, the style of architecture resembles the Gothic, being massive and durable, while in other respects it resembles the Egyptian. Yet the general construction manner and style of architecture is different from anything hitherto described in the world, okay? It's still unique. In Egypt, hieroglyphics on stone denote remarkable events, which no one has yet been able to decipher, huh? So in 1858, they didn't know anything about that place over there. Imagine that. A dark shade rests on the antiquities of America, and a few rays of light enliven the gloom. We have ancient history to inform us of the events of Egypt, how that empire was founded and how it prospered and fell. We have the same record of Babylon, Nineveh, Greece, Rome, and Carthage, but not the least information have we relative to those who erected these cities. All right, dodge the hijack. Why am I saying that, guys? Because all these places they named right there, I bet you most of these, if not all these places, were here in ancient America, the real ones. So there is a history, it's just been put in the wrong place. What people and whence they came, not a ray of light to dispel the dark gloom which seems to rest on the earliest history of America. They're like, who are you? Who are these people? So again, they can't tell you who you are if they don't know, right? So what they talking about Bering Strait and all these out of Africa theories, architecture, sculpture, painting, and all the arts that adorn civilized life have flourished in this country at a period far remote. There is evidence sufficient to prove that these cities were in ruins at least 16 or 1800 years ago. They were already in ruins back then. In Palenque are the remains of an altar over which grows an immense cedar. Okay, there's a cedar, really tall cedar growing over an altar. How many years is that? Whose powerful roots enshrine it. The whole city is overgrown with mahogany and cedar trees of enormous size. The concentric circles of some of these trees, the well-known cycles for a year, have been counted, which showed they were more than 800 years old. And there were indications of another generation of trees having sprung up before them. Okay, there was even trees before that they're growing. How few reflect on the fact that America is an old dominion, the seat of an ancient mighty empire. These facts are opening themselves every day to the eyes of the astonished world. So in the 1850s, people were realizing this. And what happened? How did we lose track of this and stop investigating, stop researching? Why isn't this part of our curriculum? Why is it not in our textbooks? Why they got us looking at the other side of the world only? What happened in the 1900s? So they're opening the eyes of the astonished world, and it is to be hoped that the spirit of inquiry, which seems at present to animate all classes of learned men, may throw light on the early history of this remarkable region, okay? This remarkable region. And I will add to that, I hope that the spirit of inquiry today is still alive to animate all truth seekers and learned men so that we together can bring this truth out. All right, guys, and that's the end of this article. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Just want to show you that they were writing about this many times in different books, different newspaper articles. So we can't really say we didn't know. It's just been kept from us all these years. We're going to leave off here with a little bonus video. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Just wanted to do a little recap for all the new subscribers. Thanks for all the support. I got a lot of videos coming, a lot of investigation, a lot of new findings, great topics, great information. Make sure to hit like and share if you enjoyed this. Thanks for being here once again. Awa. All right, so we're in this book. It's called Ancient America and Notes on American Archaeology by John D. Baldwin, author of Prehistoric Nations. This is from 1872. We're on page 159. It says here, the oldest of civilizations. Some investigators who have given much study to the antiquities, traditions, old books, and probable geological history of Mexico and Central America. All right, so very important. Those who have investigated, those people who have given much study, those who actually do research of the antiquities and the actual traditions and actually research in these old books and probable geological history of Mexico and Central America believe that the first civilization the world ever saw appeared in this part of ancient America. All right, the first civilization of the world. They're not just talking about the Americas, they're talking about the very first civilization. Those investigators who have actually taken the time to study, given much study to these people, to this part of the world, believe and know that this is where the first civilization first ever appeared. Right, and this part of ancient America says, or was immediately connected with it. They hold that the human race first rose to civilized life in America. All right, first civilized life in America. That's the cradle of all, in America. Okay, in ancient America, which is geologically the oldest of the continents. I remember, geologically meaning the land is the oldest out of the primordial waters. It's the oldest. They found it. The most renowned geologist, Luis Agassiz, told us. The Mayas, isn't their story? They tell us they came out of the bottom of the sea, their land, Mayak. And it's proven geologically. There's a part in Canada, one of the oldest parts in the world that came out of the water. That's what they're saying according to their science. And that ages ago, the portion of this continent on which the first civilizers appeared was sunk beneath the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. All right, so they're saying something happened. Usually the engulfing of this portion of the land is supposed to have been affected by some tremendous convulsion of nature, and there is appeal to recollections of such a catastrophe, said to have been preserved in the old books of Central America. And it is. We've talked over this. And also in those of Egypt, from which Solon received an account of the lost Atlantis. Now, according to this hypothesis, the American continent formerly extended from Mexico, Central America, and New Granada far into the Atlantic Ocean, toward Europe and Africa, covering all the space now occupied by the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, and the West India Islands. So they're saying that America extended that far. You hear what they're telling you, right? So it was still part of America. And going far beyond them toward the east and northeast, this lost portion, all right, this lost portion of America, remember, it's just an extension of America. This lost portion of the continent was the Atlantis, of which the old annals of Egypt told so much in the time of Solon. They're letting you know this is the actual place they were calling Atlantis. It was just an extension, a lost portion of America. These are the same stories of the old annals of Egypt that Plato told us. And it was the original seat of the first human civilization, the original seat. Just like the Egyptians said that the ancestors, their ancient ancestors, were from a western distant land where the first the people of the earth came about, which after the great cataclysm was renewed and perpetuated in the region where we now trace the mysterious remains of ancient cities. Those desiring to know what can be said in support of this view of ancient America must read the later volumes of Brasseur de Bourbourg, especially his Quatre Lettres sur le Mexique and his Sources de la Historia Primitive du Mexique. So we're going to get this book, we're going to get the full translation, even if we have to translate it from French. I got the actual books. These are in the archives, and we're able to be able to see these books. Continuing on page 184, it says here, it was an original civilization. It has been said, very justly by one explorer of the Mexican and Central American ruins, that the American monuments are different from those of any other known people of a new order, and entirely and absolutely anonymous. They stand alone. The more we study them, the more we find it necessary to believe that the civilization they represent was originated in America, and probably in a region where they are found. It did not come from the old world. They didn't come from that side of the world, that hemisphere. It was the work of some remarkably gifted branch of the race found on the southern part of this continent when it was discovered in 1492. Undoubtedly, it was very old. It was very old. They're talking about the civilizations of America. Its original beginning may have been as old as Egypt. It may have been as old as Egypt, or even farther back in the past, or even before Egypt. Then the ages to which Atlantis must be referred. And it may have been later than the beginning of Egypt. All right? Who can certainly tell its age? Who's going to tell the age? They don't know. Whether earlier or later it was original. Whether later, oh well, we'll discuss that later. No, we're going to discuss that now. It's earlier, and it is original. Its construction seems to have been a refined and artistic development of a style of building different from that of any other people, which began with ruder forms, but in all periods of its history preserved the same general conception. They show us the idea of the mound builders wrought out in stone and embellished by art. The decorations and the writings also are wholly original. There is no imitation of the work of any people ever known in Asia, Africa, or Europe. It appears evident that the method of building seen in the great ruins, began with the ruder forms of mound work and became what we find it by gradual development as the advancing civilization supplied new ideas and gave higher skill, but the culture and the work were wholly original, wholly American. All right, so he's giving a hint that it seems that it started out all with first creating the mounds, right? Creating mounds, and then these mounds became stone buildings.
For more than 50 years, evidence of humans in America much older than 13,400 years ago was simply dismissed, and anybody who attempted to go that way would not get research funding and would be ostracized by their colleagues and literally have their lives ruined. And this is most unfortunate, and it's not how science should proceed, because we now know that human beings have been in the Americas for tens of thousands of years before 13,400 years ago. In fact, the latest evidence puts them back more than 130,000 years in the Americas. And what that says to me is, if they were saying before that humans didn't come until 13,400 years ago and nobody should look, nobody should dig deeper, now we know they were there 130,000 years ago. That's more than 100,000 years of the American story that has not been told entirely because of the dogmatism of archaeology. And now reluctantly they're having to accept, all of the institutions are accepting, well, we're sorry, we got it wrong. But it's not just a matter of getting it wrong. It's a grave responsibility to be the profession that interprets the prehistory of humanity to the modern world. And it's a betrayal of that responsibility to be so dogmatic and to refuse to consider any possibility which doesn't fit with one's preconceived notions. And you know, the net result is that we're left with 100,000 years of North American prehistory, which has been completely unstudied, and they're only now beginning to study it. And the evidence that's coming out, both in North America and South America, is absolutely...
We're in this book now. It's called Myths and Symbols, or Aboriginal Religions in America by Stephen D. Peat, PhD. It's part of Prehistoric America, Volume 5, actually. Says Stephen is a member of the American Antiquarian Society, New England Historical and Genealogical Society, correspondent member of the American Oriental Society, Numismatic Society, New York, Victoria Institute, Society of Biblical Archaeology, also editor of American Antiquarian and Oriental Journal. This is from 1905. We're on page 161 of this book, and right here has a great drawing or picture or drawing of the Pyramid of Cholula, very old one. All right, you see how it looks like a mountain, but that's actual pyramid, one of the biggest in the world. All right, gonna get the video right now to show you, but that says here, the size of the pyramid is to be considered. A comparison has been drawn between the pyramids of America and of Egypt. It has been said that the pyramid of Cahokia and of Cholula are fully equal to those of Giza. The Cahokia, both of those are bigger than Giza. All right, they're bigger. And of Mycerinus. We must, however, distinguish between the horizontal extension of a natural or artificial heap of earth and the elaborate layers of stone, and grant to the Egyptians the more elaborate structures, right? So he's going to go with them, but it says Cahokia covers 12 acres, but was only 90 feet high, and it is uncertain whether it was natural or artificial. Oh, you're still debating it? No, it's artificial. It was built by people, yes. It's a mound. It's bigger. Cholula is larger at the base than any one of the old world pyramids, larger than any of the old world pyramids. Cholula, larger, over twice as large as that of Cheops, but only slightly higher than that of Mycerinus. All right, but we got the tallest in El Mirador, La Danta Pyramid in Guatemala. That is the tallest structure in the world. All right, I'm going to show you that.
Beneath the tiny church, hidden under tufts of grass, trees, and soil, is an ancient pyramid of truly gigantic proportions, standing 450 meters wide and 66 meters tall. From end to end, the Great Pyramid of Cholula is equivalent to 9 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Alright? It's equivalent to 9 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So how did these trees and soil get over this whole pyramid? Wouldn't that take a long time? This is ancient. Alright, this pyramid in Cholula is ancient. We're gonna see how ancient. For an obscure temple no one's heard of, Cholula holds an impressive array of records. It's the largest pyramid on the planet. Again, it's the largest pyramid on the planet, with a base 4 times larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza and nearly twice the volume. Never mind the largest pyramid, it's the largest monument ever constructed anywhere. Alright? Now think about that and remember this. It's the largest monument ever constructed anywhere by any civilization to this day, my people. Alright, this is in Mexico, America. The Great Pyramid of Cholula, also known as Tlachihualtepelt, for made by hand mountain, is a huge complex located in Cholula, Puebla, Mexico. It is the largest archaeological site of a pyramid temple in the New World, as well as the largest pyramid known to exist in the world today. Again, this is the largest pyramid known to exist in the world today. The pyramid stands 55 meters, 150 feet above the surrounding plain. In its final form, it measured 450 meters, about 1,480 feet. The pyramid is a temple that traditionally has been viewed as having been dedicated to the god Quetzalcoatl. There we go again, feathered serpent. It has base of 450 by 450 meters and a height of 66 meters, 217 feet. According to the Guinness Book of Records, it is in fact the largest pyramid as well as the largest monument ever constructed anywhere in the world. Alright, with a total volume estimated at over 4.445 million cubic meters, even larger than that of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, which is about 2.5 million cubic meters. Alright, do you want the numbers? Here they are. Alright, what is the largest monument ever constructed anywhere in the world? It's this pyramid right here, the Pyramid of Cholula in Mexico. Alright, so we're gonna get into this journal right here, this scholarly quarterly review. Is called the Foreign Quarterly Review, and this is basically a journal that I was looking for. I kept seeing a reference in a lot of books I was reading as a source. It's right now it's in the Harvard University collection. They're the ones who have most of the collections. There's over 50 volumes, I believe. This is in volume 18 that I'm going to read. And it just so happens to mention a little bit of Cholula and what we're talking about. So I wanted to show you that. Okay. So again, the Foreign Quarterly Review, volume 18. And this was written in 1837.
These facts being admitted or established, the question is, do the monuments of New Spain, as displayed in the illustrations of the works under review, correspond with 3 unvarying and identifying characteristics? Our reply is yes, they correspond entirely. Some of the pyramids, as we have said, are larger than those of Egypt. Some of them are different in their model, having somewhat of an Indian character, bearing strong affinity to pyramidal temples still extant in Japan. And it says, see the works of Sir Thomas Raffles for that. The Pyramid of Cholula exhibits a most singular identity with the model of the temples of Belus. Okay, so again, the Pyramid of Cholula exhibits a most singularly identity with the model of the temples of Belus. Belus Jupiter, Bel, Tower of Babel. described by Herodotus, and which by many scholars has been considered to be the scriptural Tower of Babel. All right. It consists of the 8 graduated square towers, each rising above the other, and terminating in a topmost sanctuary, dedicated apparently to the same solar god, but there are more singular analogies between the forms of some of the pyramids of New Spain and some of the most ancient pyramids of Egypt.
We're in this book now. It's called The Ancient Monuments of North and South America, second edition by C.S. Rafinsky, AM, Ph.D., Professor of Historical Natural Sciences, member of many learned societies in Philadelphia, New York, Lexington, Cincinnati, Nashville, Paris, Bordeaux, Brussels, Bonn, Vienna, Zurich, Naples, and the American Antiquarian Society, the Northern Antiquarian Society of Copenhagen. The Mexican antiquities have lately been illustrated in many splendid works by Anglio, Kingsborough, Dupax, Baraden, St. Priest, Nebel, Icaza, Gondra, Waldeck. In an clever review of these works in the Foreign Review, it is distinctly asserted that the Toltecans, the people of Toul, or Tol, right? People of Tol, or American Atlantes, the American Atlanteans, what? Were a quite different people from the later Mexican tribes, that their monuments are equal in interest to those of Egypt and Syria, equal in interest to those of Egypt, with colossal and even cyclopean structures, which agree with my former statements, and I have traced them in America from Missouri to Chile, but their central seats and empires were from Mexico to Quito. Their great temple of Otulum near Palenque was equal to Solomon's temple. Their mythology was quite peculiar and Asiatic. Their man deity was Hun Aku, first cause, comparable to Anuki, the Syrian Cybele. Their astronomy was antediluvian, the year of 360 days of 18 months of 20 days.
All right, so quickly I want to read from this newspaper article that I found. It was from it says here, the Kansas City Journal, from Monday, October the 12th, 1896. And the title is Prehistoric Man, the Human Race and Its Dispersions. How long has the earth been people, and when and where was the beginning? All right, so we've been doing a lot of research, right? Correlating a lot of things that, America is the true old world. All right, more and more evidence is just going to keep coming out. We're just going to keep finding all these investigations, studies, articles, documented, recorded, historical chronicles, and information, right, that existed that never was taught to us. All right, so this is one of those. All right, so let's see what they have to say in this article. All right, because we are talking about, a lot of Egyptian resemblances here in America, and the truth is that this is the source, this is their origins, and that's why there is some resemblances here to all the old world civilizations. We have all that here. All right, it's not just like we're similar to Egyptians or we're similar to the Hindu or all that. It's everything, because this is the source. So from here it's spread out to the rest of the world. All right, so let's see what they say right here. All right, so I'm just going to belly flop to this part of the article, and it says, after correlating all data that have been made public to the present time, all right, the conclusion is unavoidable that the oldest civilization was in the Yucatan and Central America. All right, again, the Kansas City Journal in 1896 wrote this. They're telling you that if you really do the research and you start compiling all this information, all this evidence, it's unavoidable, all right, that the oldest civilization was in the Yucatan and Central America. Future discoveries may change this conclusion. It seems that Egypt was first peopled by immigrants from the Yucatan. Say what? It seems that Egypt was first peopled by the immigrants from Yucatan. Space will allow only a few facts that clearly indicate the truth of this assertion. First, the pyramids of Yucatan are some of them much larger than any found in Egypt. All right, much larger than any found in Egypt. That of Cheops not accepted. All right, and Giza. Second, the pyramids of Egypt bear structural evidence of having been modeled on those of Yucatan, notably of the one at Coloma, which covers 23 acres. Third, the early Egyptians and the Mayas of Yucatan had the same system of reckoning time, but the Mayas developed a system that was far superior. Again, we got that in the Foreign Quarterly Review, right? Far superior or excelled, in which antedates that of Egypt is older than Egypt. All right? Fourth, the Mayas manufactured cement that was of the same material as that of ancient Egypt. Fifth, the architecture of Yucatan is of the same general type as that of an ancient Egypt, but it is finer and seems to have been the model that the Egyptians attempted to imitate. They attempted to imitate our models from here, America. Six, the art of both countries, as displayed in their ceramics and architecture, is of the same type or school, that of Yucatan, being much more highly developed. All right, again, this was an article written in the Kansas City Journal, Monday, October 12th, 1896, if you want to look it up. Prehistoric man, they're telling you straight up in this article back in 1896 that we were the source, we were the cradle of civilization, and we went and colonized Egypt over there, just like Thoth told us in Atlantis, the emerald tablets, right, and the green emerald tablets, right, he told us he went over there, right, to the sons of Chem. All right, we got the Masonic book on the last video, right? What did it tell us? That this is the original Egypt. And when we're talking about prehistory, we're talking about America. That's the Masons. That's one of their most sacred books, Ancient Mystic Order. All right. We're in this book real quick. It says Views of Ancient Monuments in Central America, Chiapas, and Yucatan by F. Catherwood Arch. It says here the Mexican temples were called Teocalli. They're talking about the pyramids, the Teocallis, or houses of God. Remember that Memphis, Egypt, Aegyptus means house of Ptah or house of Ptah or temple of Ptah, right? House of God. Same thing. And the Mexican temples were called Teocallis, houses of God, and were very numerous. There were several hundreds in each of the principal cities, several hundreds, many of them doubtless very humble edifices. They were solid masses of earth, brick, or stone, and in their forms somewhat resembled the pyramidal structures of ancient Egypt. The bases of many of them were several hundred feet square, and they towered to a height of more than 100 feet. They had staircases leading from the base to the summit, on which stood the temple with altars on which fires were kept as indistinguishable as those in the temple of Vesta. There were said to be 600 of these altars on smaller buildings within the enclosure of the great temple of Mexico, with those on the sacred edifices in other parts of the city shed a brilliant illumination over its streets through the darkest night. And we continue, says here, at Ocosingo. Ocosingo is actually an archaeological site. It's a pyramid, Ocosingo pyramid. I'm gonna show you how complex, how big it is, how massive this construction is. It says at Ocosingo, we met with the arch before alluded to, with the usual accompaniments of mounds and terraces, and an ornament over one of the doorways, not unlike the winged globe of Egypt. Just like the wind globe of Egypt in the archway, the same symbol found in Ocosingo. All right, so first of all, what is the wind globe of Egypt, right? The globe and the wing, right? We see that in the doorways and a lot of these so-called temples or pyramids, right, in Egypt, right? The globe and the wings. Now, Ocosingo, right? Ocosingo. Let me show you how complex this is, all right? Hold up, all right? This is Ocosingo right here. Ocosingo, this whole thing is one structure, one big pyramid. Let me show you. Right, Ocosingo. It's very big. Ocosingo. That's probably one of their ball courts and ceremonial places. Yeah, Ocosingo is huge. I'm gonna get like a diagram for you guys. All right, here's another one. Ocosingo is huge. It's one big complex. So he's saying they found a globe
a winged globe on one of the archways, just like in ancient Egypt. In this site right here that we never heard of. How big it is. Look at that. That's one big monument right here, all the way from the bottom. Probably, I think actually from this over here. All of it stone, brick, all the way to the top. It doesn't start right here. This whole thing is together. That's just one complex. Aside from it, up in front of it is other buildings. All right, here's a good one. It says picture of Tonina Mayan ruins and archaeological site right here. Single pyramid. You see the whole thing. This whole thing, even in the bottom, it's all brick. It's all stone, masonry, all the way to the top. It's very complex. All right, single. Very complex. See from the top, probably you can see all that. Look at this place, beautiful, right? Mokosingo, where they found a winged globe, an Egyptian winged globe. So here's some of the what's found on the walls, some of the art. Yeah, you know, it's pretty big, it's pretty massive, you know. Doesn't compare to things in Africa. There's some of the parts and you know, some of the parts, and look at all these different rooms and stuff. Another view of it right here. It's massive. Just real quick, we're in the Smithsonian Magazine website. It says here, El Mirador, the lost city of the Maya, now overgrown by jungle. The ancient site was once the thriving capital of the Maya civilization. Real quick, right here it says, see that there? He said, pointing to a slightly raised and darker line of trees. That's a causeway. There's a plastered roadbed under there, 2 to 6 meters high and 20 to 40 meters wide. Exactbe, it's called White Road. It runs for about 12 kilometers from Mirador to Nagbe. It's part of the first freeway system in the world. First expressways, freeways, all right? Mirador was known in the pre-classic as the Khan Kingdom, the Khans, all right? The Khan, priest kings, the Khan Kingdom. Khan meaning snake, this feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, the plum serpent, right? The Khans and the kings of Halakmul refer to themselves as the lords of Khan. Khan, snake, snake people, snake deities, that's the Nagas that went over to India. Not as the lords of Chiknab, which is the original name of Kalakmul, Hansen says, so the Khan Kingdom. We came to the first tier of Ladanta Pyramid, a high forested platform of cut stone and rock fill that was some 900 feet wide and 2,000 feet long and covered nearly 45 acres. We calculate that as many as 15 million man-days of labor were expended on Ladanta, Hansen said. It took 12 men to carry each block. Each one weighs about 1,000 pounds. We've excavated 9 quarries where the stones were cut, some 600 to 700 meters away. So he's given his theory how they build it, right? Men carrying blocks. Before long, we mounted another platform. It was about 33 feet high also and covered about 4 acres. All right, these are different platforms. This is all limestone. This ain't like the Pyramid of Giza. That's tiny compared to this. Different platforms with different acres. This is all limestone, and they had their own temples in these different platforms. All right, the trail led to a set of steps that climbed to a third 86-foot high platform that served as the base for a triad of an impressive central pyramid flanked by 2 smaller pyramids, a formidable sight with its vertiginous staircase bisecting the west face. You don't find the triadic pattern before about 300 BC, Hansen said. We hiked around the base of the upper platform and climbed a cantilevered wooden staircase that zigzagged up near vertical east face of Ladanta, which plunged more than 230 feet to the jungle floor. Wow, said Joanna. The summit was the size of a decent home office.
I mean, you could actually stand up there. It's not like the pyramids of Giza, it's all pointy, those pointy. There was a surveyor's benchmark embedded in the limestone, a fence to keep you from tumbling off the east precipice, and a big leafy tree that from afar stood out like a tasseled toothpick, pinned to a club sandwich. After concentrating so long on the ground, verifying that roots weren't snakes, it was a great pleasure to lift my eyes to infinity. It was boggling to think we were standing on the labor of thousands of people from antiquity, and to imagine their vanished metropolis, the businesses of the city, such as it might have been on a day like this. Can you imagine? He's saying, imagine that. The spiritual and ideological imperatives that lifted these stones, the rituals that might have occurred at this sacred spot, everything from coronations to ceremonies in which priests and kings, all right, the khans, the kings, the Marukans, would draw blood from their genitals to spill onto the paper and burn as sacrifice to the gods, all right? This is according to her. That's the hijack. To the west loomed the forested silhouettes of the Tiger or Tigre complex, where high on the pyramid, Hansen and his team have found skeletons with obsidian arrow points in their ribs, possibly casualties of an early classic period battle that wiped out remnant inhabitants of the abandoned capital. Also visible were the outlines of the Monos and Leon pyramids, which, along with Tigre and La Danta and the administrative complex known as the Central Acropolis, made up some of the oldest and largest concentrations of public architecture in all of Maya civilization, and that's in all the world.
What I'm looking at is sculpture that was created something like 2,000 years ago, and it's the most magnificent thing I've ever seen. I can tell you that I think this is probably the first of the 8 wonders of the world, the first of them. And if you want an experience, don't go to Stonehenge, don't go to the Great Pyramids at Cheops or Giza. Come to Guatemala. Don't go to the Great Pyramids at Cheops or Giza. Come to Guatemala and see this.
Guatemalan archaeologists are making a fascinating discovery. Let's go to CNN's Brooke Baldwin. She traveled to Mirador and came back with an amazing story. Brooke, tell our viewers what's going on.
Wolf, I think I'm officially an archaeology geek. Our CNN crew, we're the first TV camera actually in the world to shoot the face of what may be the world's largest pyramid by volume. This pyramid, it is covered by the canopy of the jungle. It is currently facing several threats. From the air, it looks like just jungle, but these forests in Guatemala hide an ancient secret. The city of Mirador, often referred to as the cradle of Mayan civilization, the size of a modern-day metropolis. This is no mountain. It's a pyramid, and according to the Mirador Basin Project, it may be the largest pyramid by volume in the world. CNN is traveling with the project's director and lead archaeologist, Richard Hansen, and the founder of the Global Heritage Fund, Jeff Morgan.
The Pyramid Latente is a structure the world should know because it represents an investment of labor unprecedented in the world history. Every single stone in that building, from the bottom to the top, was carried by human labor.
And the work to save this pyramid is delicate, done by hand. Guatemalan archaeologists painstakingly help uncover pieces of history built by their ancestors. And the view from the top of La Danta, spectacular.
This is the sun of the Maya world.
Here at the top of La Danta, we are 72 meters, or about 224 feet from the forest floor. And when we talk about sheer size of this area that is El Mirador, just one single Mayan city, archaeologist Dr. Richard Hansen says its size is larger than all of downtown Los Angeles, and he says there are still thousands of pyramids yet to be uncovered. Then Dr. Hansen shows us something few people have ever seen, a relic referred to as the Popol Vuh, the Mayan story of creation. Oh my gosh! CNN cameras are the first to capture this fresh discovery, which Hansen says will rewrite Mayan history. But this is the creation story.
This is the creation story, and it goes back to at least 300 to 200 BC.
For decades, historians believe the Popol Vuh was tainted by the Catholic views of Spanish conquistadors. Finding this frieze changes everything because it predates the Spanish arrival by more than a millennium. The challenge now is preserving this area, a jungle constantly under threat by narco-traffickers, loggers, and cattle ranchers. Hansen's guards are on constant standby to keep looters out.
Where we've had guards in cities throughout the basin, we've had no looters trenches. Where we haven't had the resources for that, we have lost 100%.
Hansen has made Mirador his life's work and hopes to share these Mayan secrets with Guatemala and the world.
The science for the sake of science is sterile. It doesn't bless the lives of people. And by conserving this, we're blessing the lives of an entire nation.
El Mirador, by the numbers, prepared to be amazed. With up to 1 million inhabitants, that's a rough estimate they're saying. You know, they don't really know. Could have been a lot more. They're finding out that now in Guatemala and the Petén region, right? The numbers are increasing. It says with up to 1 million inhabitants at its zenith between 300 BC and 800 AD, right, BC, El Mirador and its surrounding neighborhoods would have been the largest city in the world at that time. The largest city in the world at that time. The largest city in the world at that time. You understand? Not over there in Egypt or Mesopotamia. So how is this in 300 BC the largest? To accommodate so many people, the city sprawled for over nearly 2,500 square mile patch of heart-shaped jungle that's referred to as El Mirador Basin. The city center covered 14 square miles. That's 3 times larger than downtown Los Angeles, all right? Just the city center was 3 times larger than Los Angeles, all right? Even the name is dramatic. The lookout. One reason for the name is La Danta Pyramid, which some calculate as to the largest pyramid by volume in the world. The pyramid itself may only be 20-30 feet, but its massive multi-tiered foundation contains something like 99 million cubic feet of rock and fill. La Danta's massive first tier is 980 feet wide, 2,000 feet long, and covers 45 acres. It's even more massive than the Great Pyramid of Giza and makes for a great lookout point, all right? So larger than Giza, right? The largest city in the world at the time. Now, they say that El Mirador was abandoned nearly 2,000 years ago. That's how long ago. Look at that. No one knows why. The site slept and the jungle crept until 1926 when archaeologists found it. Most of this huge city remains unexcavated, and there are signs of scientists at work all over the El Mirador site. Plastic parts protected fresh finds. Rough sheds were packed with tools and supplies, but the jungle still owns most of El Mirador, and to the untrained eye, the site can seem like just another patch of jungle, save for La Danta and El Tigre pyramids, which rise above the jungle canopy in a way that even a layman can see is the work of man. Actually, many thousands of men. It's estimated that it took 15 million man days of work to build La Danta. All right, so he's saying it's all over the place. And honestly, the guy who was the tour, one of the local tours, says that only 2% of it has been excavated. Only 2%.